Hello, everyone, and welcome to Race 7 of Season 9 of the Spec-5 World Tour here from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, also known as Mosport Park. My name is Alex Andersen. I am joined in the commentary booth with Tom Dillon, with Adam Thompson running cameras in the background. Before we get into quali, a bit of information about your track tonight here at, I'm just going to call it Mosport Park, it's a bit easier. So, Mosport Park was Canada's first permanent motor racing facility and is one of a handful of circuits to have continued in operation for more than 60 years without any layout altercations. Now known for marketing purposes as Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, the track has undergone a revival over the past 2 decades, firstly under the ownership of Don Panos, and more latterly under the stewardship of a consortium which includes ex-racer Ron Fellows. Today the course is a popular part of the IMSA Sports Car Series for its Sports Car Grand Prix, while other notable series to visit include the Canadian National Superbike Championship, the NASCAR Pinty Series, and the Vintage Grand Prix Historic Meeting. Sorry for that little bit of hiccup there, but we're here for Race 7 of the Spec-5 World Tour here at Canadian Tire. Bit of a twisty track, only have one really long straightaway here. So Tom Dillon, before we jump into qualifying, bit of pre-race predictions from yourself?
Well, not many predictions, but I've seen this track a lot. It's a very, very flowing circuit, is Canadian Tire. It's a classic, of course, in the wonderful world of sports cars, and it should be a huge, huge challenge in the MX-5s as well. Of course, the cars that everyone knows in this game, but very few are able to master it. I'm looking through the field. We've got some very, very high-quality drivers who I'm sure have mastered this car to its best ability. Currently, the time to beat was by Ronnie Cox, and it was 1:33.2. So clearly, they're going along quite fast in these cars. They've definitely mastered them to a degree.
Yeah, and you really don't see any big gaps that are over 1/10 of a second. Most of the gaps for these guys are under 1/10 of a second as Rui Coimbra pops into 3rd, Sean Hayes in 5th as well, and Eugenio Polici jumps up to 8th place there as we take a look at Rui Coimbra here as he rounds turn 1, it looks like. Through turn 2 he comes, and we're going to take you through the points here for tonight real quick during qualifying. So the championship standings for the pro class after Daytona, I believe. Rui Coimbra still leads the points here with 373 points, but Ronnie Coates is not far behind with 366. Jordy Fike still right there as well with 363. Adam McLeod in 4th, Brian Zabelski in 5th, Eugenio Polici in 6th, Tom Rath in 7th, Mitchell Peak in 8th, Otis Adams Jr. in 9th, Curtis Jones in 10th, Jedediah Babinek in 11th, Greg Mack in 12th, David Staub in 13th, as well as Kenneth Staub in 14th, Zach Burke 15th, James Hansen in 16th, Simon Foweather in 17th, and Nicky Borovic in 18th. Still continuing on, Giancarlo Lenzi in 19th, Joshua Soto in 20th, and a few guys that have yet to score any points there as well. And Tom, I'll let you take us through the Open Championship standings.
Well, unfortunately, Alex, I can't see the standings on my screen, so
okay.
I don't have to defer to you, unfortunately, but go ahead.
It's okay. Lee Martin currently leads the Open Championship after just dominating performances just all in a row over the 6 past races. Jose Gonzalez follows him pretty closely, relatively, in 2nd there with 325. Greg Brockway is in 3rd with 297. Then it's Andrew Gossick in 4th. Paulo Coimbra in 5th, Tom Athan in 6th, Josh Olson in 7th, Stephen Hellowell in 8th, Charles Vicaro in 9th, Sean Hayes in 10th, Jerry DiPiero in 11th, John Casey in 12th, Edgar Sancinelli in 13th, Charles Boley in 14th, David Tamira in 15th, Joe Camilleri in 16th. Oh, those guys actually have yet to score any points back there. All zeros back there from 15th on back, so speaking of the Open class, I want to take a look at the only Open class driver that is in the top 10. Sean Hayes there. We know how fast he is from last season, but he is in front of everyone by around 6 places. It doesn't look like he's on track right now, but that that just shows you that that is an open driver that might be able to win tonight if he can keep that car clean.
Yep, and looking through the grid, the open class drivers understandably further down the order than their counterparts, but currently on top of that class, as I understand it, is Lee Martin. He's the first driver with the O in front of his name anyway, and 133.6, so not a great difference between the classes here, only about 4.8 tenths or so. And I can tell you as well that we've got about 5 minutes left in qualifying, which means that it should really be now where we start to really hot up, providing the drivers haven't, of course, used all of their 4 laps already. As we actually have a look at Lee Martin, I am led to believe he's on a lap, actually. And you tend to find in these MX-5s that you want to use up your laps almost consecutively. It sometimes takes a couple of moments to get the car up to temperature, and not necessarily takes a single out lap. And you can see Lee almost sliding the car through some of these corners as he does come to the line, and he's going to stop just before the line, actually, which is interesting from Lee Martin, actually. Stephen Helliwell takes the line as well. I do wonder why Lee decided to stop at the line there. Oh, just after the line, apparently. I've heard it confused me because I think the timing line here and the finish line are slightly different. I was looking at where the marshal post was, but looking at Otis Adams Jr.
Yeah, he's coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway there under the Mobil 1 sign, and he's going to come over the crest. This is a very long backstretch for these cars here. He's going to come down into these final couple of corners known as the S's. Just still a very long straightaway. You just got to find an optimal route through there. Looks like he clips the grass a little bit as he enters the S's here. Just keeping it nice. He brings it onto the curb, into the next left-hander, and into the final corner, which is known as White's here. Hard braking zone into a 90-degree right-hander back onto the main straight here. Brings it nicely onto the curbs and down to the line. Not sure if he improved on his lap time there, but while you were talking about people not using their 4 laps yet, Tom, I noticed that Eugenio Polici jumped up to second in the standings, and then Mitchell P quickly outclassed him by just 3 thousandths.
Very slender margins as well in these MX-5s, as they tend to be cars that lend themselves to slender margins, if that makes any sense. They kind of, because they're so slow in a way, everyone's sort of taking all these corners at the same speed. They're very similar, and I think that has a lot to do with how the cars are sort of perceived as quite easy to drive, as even though of course they're not very good at racing, we see. And I think that's got something to do with that. But the very slender margins throughout the field, I believe that the entire field is separated by 1.5 seconds, which is quite incredible for a 1 minute 33 lap. And a couple of notes. Hello to everyone in the YouTube chat. We're seeing Fred, 32V, and Biggles both in the YouTube chat at the moment. And welcome to the stream. We've got about 2 minutes left of this qualifying session now, with Otis Adams Jr. heading on through for what I imagine will probably be looking at his final lap for the session as he head on board for the final corner. And how tentative he is on the throttle, heads to the line, and as I said, these cars don't look very fast at all. Previous lap was at 133.4, and I don't believe that was an improvement on his 133.3 that set him his current lap for 6th position. But onto a second lap, that I think he's going to go for this one as well. And just look at through this double left-hander, how he's having to feather the throttle and just sort of keep the car on a knife edge, constantly wanting to kick out at you. And then the understeer as well, very difficult for him to spot and take his apexes. Probably wants to clip a little bit of that curb on the outside to use all of the track, heading to the Continental Bridge again, just feathering the throttle, making sure you don't understeer off into the grass, keep it on the grey stuff, and the car's going to kick out ever so slightly on him as he heads through one of the slower speed corners, clonks the curb, first gear, and gets the power back down nice and easily. It looks like a pretty clean lap at the moment for Adams Jr.
Yeah, he had a pretty nice line through the moss there, which is that double right-hander, that low speed, almost hairpin corner with 2 apexes there. Down the Mario Andretti straightaway he comes. Yeah, you're talking about him clonking the curb there a little bit. He's just trying to hold it as close as he can to the inside to make up as much time, but into the S as he comes up into 5th gear, drops it down into 4th gear. He's going to bring it nicely onto the curbs on exit to get a nice line through the second corner of the S's here. And it actually looks like he's bringing it toward the pit lane here as he heads through whites here. So looks like it's going to be the end of his qualifying run as the checkered flag has flown. And we're going to take you through our starting grid here with, it looks like, Ronnie Coates currently on pole. He was on pole all throughout quali. And he remains there. So Ronnie Coates with a 1:33.204 gets pole. Mitchell Peak just over half a tenth behind him in second. Eugenio Polici 0.003 behind Mitchell Peak there in third. Tom Rath only 0.002 behind Eugenio Polici there in fourth. So these times are definitely really close between these guys. Rui Coimbra there in fifth. Otis Adams Jr. in sixth. Sean Hayes in seventh. Brian Zabelski in eighth. Jedediah Babinek in 9th, Simon Foweather in 10th, Greg Mack in 11th, Jordy Fike in 12th. As we take a look further down the qualifying standings, so here we go. So it looks like Charles Vicaro in 13th, Lee Martin in 14th, Jose Gonzalez in 15th, Tom Athan in 16th, Andrew Gossick in 17th, Greg Brockway in 18th, Edgar Sanchinelli in 19th, Paulo Coimbra in 20th, Stephen Hellowell in 21st, John Casey in 22nd, and Ray Lombardi in 23rd to round out the field, I do believe. Yes, that is what it is. So, like you were saying, Tom, it does look like the field is separated by just over a second and a half. First through 20th is separated by less than a second.
That seems to be rather weird for a track that's a 1 minute and 30-second lap. And as we are going to get underway here with the Porsche safety car. And yes, it's very uncharacteristic for such a short, such a long lap. Even 1 minute 30 on a normal track would be considered as relatively long. Of course, the cars are quite slow, so I think the sports cars around here do. I think, if I remember correctly, it was in the 106s you could do an LMP2 around here a couple of years ago. Since I drove, but I think the point is that in the MX-5s, because they're so approachable, you can find that the drivers can tend to be on fairly similar pace. They can all get up to speed in these cars relatively easily. Of course, difficult to master, and the racing, as we're about to see, is absolutely insane in these cars.
Yeah, definitely. You're talking about that. These cars really, they're easy to learn, but hard to master. That is something that you should hear commonly associated with these cars with their low amount of horsepower. It's a lot of momentum-based racing, and just, I want to take a moment to look at Sean Hayes there. He's 5 spots ahead of his next, looks like he's starting 7th, I do believe. He's 5 spots ahead of his next open class competitor, so just a really impressive qualifying effort from him. So we'll have to keep an eye on what he does to try and get around all the pro guys to see if he can win this race. But through Moss they come for their one and only pace lap. These guys are about to turn on the afterburners and go crazy here. Just, we know how good the drivers are in here, and we know how they can push these cars. And with the car's high skill ceiling and the momentum-based racing, we were seeing from the onboard of Otis Adams Jr. just how it requires such a unique sense of speed and a unique sense of skill, as we saw him just having to check up more out of the corner. If anything, he would throw it in there, have to feather it all throughout the corner, keep it in just nice and steady level of RPMs, then bring it nicely out of the corner to get him situated for the next one, and just trying to get the nice apexes through the S's here we see. like we were seeing from onboards of some people. You just got to get a nice exit so you can keep it right to the right side to get a nice run through the final few corners. But the iRacing safety car is going to dive into the safety of the pit lane. Here they come through the final corner. They're just going to await the green flag from the flagman, and the green flag is out, and we're racing for race 7 of season 9 of the Spec-5 World Tour here from Mosport. Ronnie Coates easily gets the lead into turn 1. Mitchell Peak follows suit there in second. Eugenio Polici still side by side with Tom Rath there as Rudy Clamber watches along. Looks like he's going to get his bumper just out in front of Tom Rath as they head into Clayton here. Looks like Mitchell Peak still holding on there behind Ronnie Coates there. We saw how close the times were, and these guys are still very aggressive with racing. Here comes Sean Hayes, already up 2 spots there in front of Tom Rath there. Side by side with him as they head towards Moss there under the Continental Bridge. As they head towards Moss, the double apex right hand, almost hairpin for these cars. So they're going to bring it down into first gear. It looks like Sean Hayes is going to get around Otis Adams, but he's not going to get to Tom Rath just yet here. Single file down the Mario Andretti straightaway. Already a lot of action here through the first lap.
Absolutely, and this is what we see in MX-5s oh so often, as actually we have a look now at Helliwell trying to get wriggle his way on through for one of the minor positions. 20th position, he's going to see if he can launch one down the inside, and I actually think it might be, it is going to be down the inside in fact. And the braking in these cars is, they're so lacking in power that you have such elongated braking zones that you can get on through on the brakes nice and easily, as we see there from Helliwell up into 21st position in that wonderfully orange coloured car, and with the traditional racing stripes as well. He's now going to look to set his sights forward and see if he can make any further moves up this field in the next 45 minutes time.
Yeah, and these guys are already super aggressive as they head through Clayton for the second time. They bring it down into Quebec here. Looks like just 2 almost identical corners. It's almost kind of looks like a high-speed chicane there for these cars. And Ronnie Coates, Mitchell Peak got around him here as we see Eugenio Polici and Tom Rath going at it as they head under the Continental Bridge. John Hayes watching on there, and he's going to try and take advantage of it. He gets his nose out in front of Tom Rath. By the time they get to Moss here, he's going to have his nose out front of the second part of the double hairpin. He's still there. He drives it onto the grass there. Tom Rath giving him no room down the Mario Andretti straightaway, and that, you don't want to make Sean Hayes angry, but Tom Rath might have just done that.
Well, elbows out. We'll say that as they roar now on down, and the second lap of this race, where it might actually have been lap 3 at this stage, but 1 minute 38 they're running at the moment. If we see a little bit of a challenge for the lead actually from Cumbra, and well, in fact it's going to not work out very well for him. It's now the 78 is going to 78 in second, isn't he? Is going to challenge third. As I apologise, my timing screen has gone weird. It's showing the 78 in second position, but there we go, it's finally updated. And well, the 78 trying to get his way back up the field on that 31 car, and not quite able to do so at the minute. The point I was trying to make before I got confused with the overlay was that the 31 car tried to make the move for the lead of the race, and it just slightly unsighted him. It's a little bit like karting here, where if you try and make a move and you're a little bit aggressive, you find yourself actually losing ground. You need to wait and be patient for the move to come to you, especially in a 45-minute race where you've got plenty of time to slice your way through the field.
Take another look at Stephen Helliwell as he comes out of Quebec, as the leaders are already headed towards Moss here. Looks like we take a look here at Otis Adams Jr., Jedediah Babinek challenging him through Moss, who slides it way up the track. They make contact there as they head through the second part of the double right-hander there. We've seen people get aggressive, and they're getting aggressive really early. Jedediah Babinek sends it way up the inside. Let's take a look here at Paulo Coimbra behind Andrew Gossick. Might try and make a move around him down the Mario Andretti straightaway. And real quick, I want to take a look up there towards Jordy Fike. Last lap, even though he's down there in 13th, he set the fastest lap of the race there with, it looked like, maybe a 1:33 if I'm not mistaken there. Looks like it. Yes, it was a 1:33.3. So that's the fastest lap. They're down in 13th in that 09 car, and it just shows you how close these guys are there. As you can see, all of their last lap times, they're all going to be in the 1:33 range, save for just a few of them. So it just really shows you how close they are, actually, as Brian Sabelski and Charles Vicaro's times separated by just 2 thousandths. So is actually Eugenio Polici just took fastest lap right away with a 1:33.089. So you can just really just tell, just not only by the racing, but just off times alone, how close these guys are. As Ronnie Coates looks to make a move here as they come out of Quebec. He's almost at the quarter panel as Jordy Fike as they head towards the Continental Bridge here. Full throttle right-hander into a hard double apex hairpin here as they head into Moss here. Nobody able to make moves as this top 6 starts to pull away.
And, well, it's very negligible, actually, the lap times when it comes to pack racing like this, where you're all stuck in one big train, or as we're seeing now, as the race is starting to sort of rubber itself in. We're starting to see 2 or 3 packs start to form, but when you're following people so closely, as we're seeing a replay, actually, of what happened here, and, well, this car looks very, very slow, and I think we might be seeing an accident of some description for the number 48, and it is going to be an accident of some description. He just got it all wrong onto the grass, but thankfully got it back going again just a little bit further down the pack. That was Helliwell, wasn't it, in the 48? But yes, when you're pack racing like that, you can see that the times are so similar purely because if you're a little bit slower than the guy ahead, because you're following him so closely, everyone is
the overlays are having a bit of a time of their own there, so I'm not sure if it's stuck the same way on your guys' screen, but I'm currently just staring at the Spec-5 logo and just watching Helliwell run laps while it's currently obstructing my vision. But looked like what happened to Helliwell, there's actually...
that was an incident,
that's
actually.
another car, that's full weather there, it looked like, as I'm just peering through the 5 of the Spec-5 logo to see that one. It's like Helliwell, or not Helliwell, excuse me. It looks like that was Simon Fowler there, heading towards white. It looks like he just lost it out of the S's.
Oh no, Helliwell has made a huge error onto the curb, and I can tell you that I can actually see the whole game here, so I'm lucky enough to have that luxury, but he seems to perhaps have a little bit of damage here, does Helliwell, as he spewed across the racetrack. He managed to catch the slide in the end, and it was a pretty good save, but really trying to get his head down now, because we've got plenty of time left in this race. Time to catch back up to the field. And if I've read my notes correctly as well, I believe we'll be expecting a pit stop or 2 as well. I'm hearing the pit window actually is going to be lap 9 to 20 of the 29 lap race. So theoretically, a single stop and plenty of time for Helliwell to get himself back up the order. And we do apologise that you two on this on the YouTube chat can't see what's going on. I'm going to do my best as we're reloading SDKs. In fact, we've just got back up in the nick of time.
It looks like mine has fixed itself there, and I think what just happened to Helliwell there through Moss is he just got it all wrong in that first corner, just hit the curb and just understeered straight out onto the grass. But Ronnie Coates looks like he got the lead back. Rui Coimbra there right on his tail here as they head towards Quebec there. Mitchell Peak still tailing on there. We know how aggressive everybody in this top 6 is, and top 5 is all pro drivers, but there is still a singular open driver hanging on to this pack. They're down in 6, Sean Hayes. He's moved up a singular spot since the start, but still holding on to these pro guys and showing them that he knows how to get it done here, and he could possibly be a threat to win this race here as they head down the Mario Andretti straightaway. This is where I think Coimbra might be able to try and make a move here. He's going to get a nice run with the slipstream. You can see that gap on the intervals closing just a bit there. Looks like he's just on the back bumper run. He looks like he's pushing him here towards the S's, which is a pretty smart move. You don't want to be too aggressive too early, as we're just almost near completing the first 10 minutes of this race. So very smart move from Coimbra there, as to try and savor his car and savor that second place, as Eugenio Polici is starting to fall back of Mitchell Peak just a tad.
Well, with the lack of dirty air with these cars, the tyres and the engine aren't doing too much extra work being behind someone. So why waste the time being all in the front, punching the hole in the air, when you can save a little bit of fuel being in someone's slipstream throughout the race? And I think that really is how Coimbra is going to be thinking at this stage. And well, whoever's in second, I think my timing screen again is going a little bit haywire. But yes, that's the point here. I think just be sensible and don't make any moves at this stage in the race, because if you tangle and you fall over each other, or you get a little bit too starry-eyed on a move, then you could really find yourself falling down the order, and that's not what you want when you're already in a very good position. I don't expect we'll be seeing the people at the front really attacking until we get towards those pit stop phases.
Yeah, as they head towards the Mario Andretti straightaway yet again, it looks like Jedediah Babinec and Otis Adams Jr. have caught up to this top 6 there, so they're in this race, and it's now just a pack consisting of the top 8 there, as we see Greg Mack back there trailing them about 1.6 seconds behind. Rui Coimbra, looks like here he goes to the outside here as they head toward the S's of Ronnie Coates there. He's going to get his nose out front by the time they get to the S's. Looks like Mitchell Peak is following him through there. Mitchell Peak around the outside, and Rui Coimbra takes the lead back from Ronnie Coates. Mitchell Peak trying to do the same thing for second here, and he will through the second corner of the S's, and into whites they come. And Mitchell Peak just jumps off that curb. Ronnie Coates might be able to do something about that. It looks like he's not going to be close enough here down the main straightaway and into turn 1 once again here. Rui Coimbra, a great move there, taking advantage of the slipstream there on the Mario Andretti straightaway, as we see Andrew Gossick back here, trailing behind Rui Coimbra. Looks like a pack of 3 cars back here. Greg Brockway in the picture as well. And if you're in this position, these guys need to keep it smooth back here, try and salvage some points off of other people's mistakes here. So we take a look at Greg Brockway back there in the 62 Frito Sport Machine. He's just hanging out back there in 19th, but looks like this race is just getting ever so closer towards the front of the pack. Eugenio Polici, and that looked like Ronnie Coates, I believe, side by side under the Continental Bridge, and now they're pushing each other into the corner. It looked like Sean Hayes was giving, that looked like Tom Rath, a bit of a shove towards that corner as Jedediah Babinec. Tom Rath is actually onto the grass back there, and it looks like these guys, they're still side by side down this back straightaway. Tom Rath and Jedediah Babinec here. We'll see if we can get a focus on them. Is Sean Hayes trailing right behind them. Otis Adams follows suit there. They're 3 wide here down the Mario Andretti straightaway into the bit of a kink there. Heading towards the S's. We'll see what happens here. They're all going to have to get on the brakes at the same time. Jedediah Babinec ends up with the lead out of those 3. Looks like Tom Rath follows suit right behind him. Tom Rath, a bit of a bump there as they head towards whites, if you saw that. So these guys very aggressive and not giving an inch towards each other, and they're letting the top 4 cars just pull away as they're still side by side going into 1 with Tom Rath and Sean Hayes.
And Sean Hayes, the open class driver, really not paying attention to that label too much. They're still side by side. I mean, he's going to have to try and have a go around the outside now. I hope he's got a little bit of extra grip, and he is on the racing line, in fairness to him, and he's actually going to have the inside, isn't he, into this corner. The number 94 car goes down the inside and gets the move done in the end, up into 6th position, but he's got a bit deep, actually, Alex, and well, he's now immediately on a switchback. The number 41 is going to just about get through as they go through under the Continental Bridge, still side by side, almost for half a lap, and eventually the number 41 under the brakes gets through and can start to relax and focus on catching back up to the back. And just as I was saying, that I don't think the top guys are going to start to battle, these racing drivers, at least in the sim, start to once again completely disregard anything that I say and prove me wrong at every opportunity. But here we go, a move for the lead. It is Mitchell Peak trying to go for the move. He's down the inside, I think this will be, and in fact he's going to be let through in the end, and I think that was just about sensible from Coimbra. You don't need to you need to pick your battles is the important thing in a race like this.
Yeah, and he let Ronnie Coates by in that as well, as it looks like we have a replay of Simon Foether. You see him with left front fender damage after his first incident through the S's. Brings it onto the curb, turn 1 exit. Looks like Stephen Hellowell onto the grass. Simon Foether followed suit. caught the grass and the curb at the wrong angle, spins it straight into the inside retaining wall. Nothing he could do there. Very unfortunate for him. It looks like he will be out of this race, but Mitchell Peak taking the lead from Uri Coimbra there as they head into Quebec here. Looks like the still pack of 4 cars as Jedediah Babinek falls back just a little here. And,
well, as we look further forward, this is really starting to be an interesting race because we seem to have 3 or 4 packs starting to form. We've got the leaders, and then you've got here Babinek on his own, really, and not able to catch back up to the leaders. This is what he's going to try to do, and he might need them to battle. But then we've got another pack, and then the sort of straddlers at the back. But right now, it's going to be very interesting, and I say this almost every race that involves pit stop strategy, but it is going to come down to the pit stop strategy, I think. We've got these queues, and in fact, another challenge for the lead. The number 31 is going to now try and take the lead of the race. This is Mitchell Peak being overtaken by Ronnie Cox, the championship leader. And he goes on through. He's the reigning champion as well, and he's got the lead for his troubles with 3 races to go, 2 after this one. Another win here would really, really bode well for his chances heading into those last 2 races. The number 22 is also trying to make a move. You can see just in the top of your picture, this is on the number 94. Bear in mind the number 94 is, of course, an open class car. That is Hayes driving that machine. So really, fighting Hayes might not be the most suitable thing for all parties, as it might be a little bit of an interesting dynamic here.
Yeah, looks like Sean Hayes, he's fallen back a little bit off Tom Rath there. Looks like brings it back under a second there, but he's still a decent ways away here. He's going to need that draft to help him as he heads onto the Continental Bridge there towards Moss there.
See our first pit stop of the evening, Alex, and the first pit stop I have seen, and it's Simon Foyweather into the pit. Stephen Helliwell. Oh, he crashed. Okay, fair enough. And I suspected at this early stage it might not be a totally expected pit stop, particularly with about 30 minutes to go. Here is a move once again for the lead, and it's Mitchell Peak once again trying to make the move on Ronnie Coates. And Ronnie Coates, as we said, leading the championship, but now not leading this race. And they're pretty back and forth, these two. And actually, their troubles, he's gaining them a little bit of time and sort of cutting them away from this pack, which is going to be crucial heading into the pit stops, where depending on the fuel, tyres and things that everyone takes, they might actually end up losing or gaining a little bit of time. So having that gap on track is going to be crucial into the pit stops.
Yeah, but I actually do think Charles Vicaro there came into the pits last lap, and looks like there's another car in Edgar Santinelli there, and currently in 15th place for himself there. Because it looks like these guys, you can just hear just off the way they have to use the throttle, the way they have to take Quebec and Clayton here at this track. It just requires such a unique skill set here for these guys. As we take a look at Jedediah Babinek just barely clinging on to this top 5 pack as Tom Rath watches on from the background there. And these guys, it's just, they got to hold on here because pit stops are going to come in, and halfway is going to be in around 4.5 minutes here as we just passed the 18-minute mark. So you just really got to wonder when these guys are going to start to come into the pits, because they will have to as soon as Ronnie Coates there. He got a bit of a better run than Mitchell Peak out of Moss there. Might have the opportunity to make a move if he so desires here. See if we can get a look on that up towards the front of the pack there. Ronnie Coates, he gets his nose in front of Mitchell Peak by the time they get down to the S's here. Looks like he's going to get the spot here as they head down into the S's. There's Eugenio Polici and Rui Coimbra watch on from the background.
And, well, I'm reading that the pit stop phase is actually going to be about lap 9 to 20 with, on the note sheet that I've got here, it says 21 question mark. So maybe some extra late takers for these pit stops. But the point is we should be getting pit stops in, well in this window actually. We're starting to see those further back in the field. Here you see the number 41 car is into the pit, so that will be his single pit stop of the evening. And, well, I think, really, it is going to be a race won and lost in the pit stop phases. If you can gain a little bit of time through the pit stops, and all of a sudden you've got a second gap on the car behind, and a second gap in NMX5 cars is absolutely huge. So I think that is just what these drivers have got to focus on now. And look at their little battling. It's actually not cost them too great a time here at the front. And look at that gap from this helicopter shot. You can see visually it's just opening up ever so slightly. It's only, granted, about 4/10 or so down the straights. But that is quite a significant margin when you're driving cars that are this close together in terms of pace. Of course, fixed setups, so driver skill having a lot to do with this. As we might see the move again.
Yeah, Mitchell Peake's getting a run down the back straight. He pulls to the outside, looks to put the same move on Ronnie Coates there, as Ronnie Coates did just one lap ago here in this same spot. He's going to get the lead here. Take a look at the gearbox camera of this car here to the first part of the S's, and just, I love listening to the throttle that they have to use in these corners, because just with the way these corners are laid out and the way these cars just act, you have to be in such a unique state of mind to drive fast here, and just have such a unique skill set. Is actually green flag pit stop starting to take effect here, as Eugenio Bellici and Sean Hayes have both respectively pulled into the pits here for their one fuel stop just before the halfway mark of this race. We'll have to see where they come out of the pits by the time they leave, and this is also going to give us a nice bit of perspective. Looks like they were taking left side tires there. A nice bit of perspective on how much time you will lose. They are taking left side tires, it does look like. As that car, as Bellici and Hayes' cars both come off the jacks, looks like Hayes elects to take all 4 tires here, so a bit of unique strategy options from these guys. And Sean Hayes pulling out of the pits now, and now we just have to wait and see where these guys come out.
Yep, and well, as I said, pit stops are so important. And, well, pulling the trigger slightly early might be fruitful, particularly now with Bellici in the clean air. If you've got clean air, then you've got a great deal of extra pace that you can use. But anyway, the point is now to just get those tyres back up to temperature and start to push on in this race. These have essentially got to be qualifying laps from Bellici if he is to reap the rewards from this particular adventure, as the leaders are still as close as ever.
Yeah, and these guys, they're just still racing, even though pit stops are going to start to really take control of this race here. Greg Mack and Jordy Fike both pull into the pits at this time. And while we have a bit of a break in the action, we're going to take a bit of a sponsor read. So, a bit of a thank you from our team to TPC Motorsports, which is a 4-year-old racing team based in Birmingham, Alabama, that currently races a Caterham 7420R in the HSR series and a BMW Spec E46. So, a big thank you to them. They help keep the Spec-5 World Tour running, so we get to sit here every week and just watch these guys duke it out for 45 minutes, and just some of the most exciting races you will find on the iRacing service here. So big shout out to them as we take a look at Jordy Fike exiting pit road. It looks like he's going to pull just in front of Tom Rath, so looks like that might mean that Jordy Fike, I know he was a little bit behind when he pitted, so it's going to depend on if these guys can put the power down to really catch up to the leaders when the leaders decide to come in. So currently back up towards those top 4 cars. Looks like there's a bit of a race going on between them. It looks like Mitchell Peake just took the lead from Ronnie Coates again heading into the S's. And reminder that this is only lap 15, just over halfway through this race here. So I would expect that on the last lap of this race, if these guys are still that close, is actually Mitchell Peake elects to come into the pits. This time, so does Otis Adams and Brian Zabelski there. Jose Gonzalez and Tom Athan as well all pull into the pits this time by. So really, if these guys are still this close here going into the S's on that white flag after the Mario Andretti straightaway, I would expect them to really be a lot more aggressive than that, because we're just looking at these guys when they go into the S's side by side here. They just want the car on the inside always usually ends up backing out as to just try and preserve their cars for later stages of the race. So really just got to think, how aggressive will they be in the last couple of laps of this race if they're still that close?
So aggressive, because in the last couple of laps of the race you haven't got a great deal to lose, particularly if you've got a lot of gaps behind. As long as you don't do anything stupid and take each other out, then you can be quite aggressive indeed. And everyone wants the title of the winner. Everyone's ego eventually gets to them when they're so close to the lead, and I'd be pressed to find someone who's going to be so close to the lead on the final lap of the race and not go for it because they're thinking points. It would take a great deal of maturity. Here is a great onboard shot, and this is the battle for the lead of the race. And these guys, they needn't battle at this stage, and I'm not here to tell people what to do, although it doesn't deter me usually. But really, battling at this stage is not what you want to do when you've got Mitchell Peak, who's taken an earlier pit stop. If you battle, you're just going to lose time. He's in dirt, he's in clean air even. He's going to be gaining a great deal more time. And granted, he's got a heavier fuel load, but in theory, he'll be gaining a bit of time on you. No need to battle. Just keep it line of stern, come into the pits, and focus on everything else later, is what I say.
Yeah, and it looks like that's exactly what these top three are doing. We've seen Rui Coimbra with multiple opportunities to come around Ronnie Coates for the lead here, and it looks like this is the stage in the race where him and Jedediah Babinek are sitting back and saying, all right, we need to just take a step back, focus on the fuel strategy just to make sure that we can make it to the end of this race. It looks like Tom Athan comes into the pits again back there. And actually, Jordy Fike once again has set the fastest lap of this race with a 1:32.999. And actually, I believe that's the fastest lap of the entire session, even in terms of practice and qualifying here. So I think the only driver to break into the 132. So really just shows you, even though the cars that might be stuck back here, they are still very fast here. As you can see, just the difference between the pro and open fastest lap times there is you see Jordy Fike's time on the left there for the pro class, but the open fastest lap, which I believe was done by Sean Hayes, if I am not mistaken, who has since fallen back a little bit with a 1:33.131. So it just really shows you that even with the separate classes, these tracks, with this track and these cars, just everybody's just so close and always on top of it here. So it looks like still the top three, or the top five rather, or the entire top four rather, have just yet to come into the pits.
And that fastest lap's incredible, isn't it? And it would set pole time by a relative margin, if I'm not mistaken. And I find that unbelievable. The fact that the racing is so close, the guys are pushing each other so much that they're setting the pole time. And it also goes to show these MX-5s how pure they are in terms of racing. The qualifying trim is no different to the race setup, and it means that really you're just always full beans, essentially. There's no need to conserve tyre, maybe a little bit of a need to conserve fuel if you're trying to go for a longer pit stop, but you can just essentially be absolutely flat out. This battle at the lead is still absolutely as close as ever, and for once they're sort of proving me right and not having a little battle at this stage, which I think is only really sensible, as if you battle you are going to lose time, and you get you get very vulnerable to the undercut. And wow, this is a very close and personal shot with the rear end of that MX-5. And maybe he was inside for a second.
Oh, maybe just a little bit too close there between these guys. And it looks like through the final part of the S's, looks like, ooh, there they go into the pits, both of them. And it looks like Jedediah Babinek follows suit as well. So now we really have to keep an eye on, I do believe that's Mitchell Peak back there, as Lee Martin comes into the pits as well. So Mitchell Peak is going to be the first car that was in the lead pack to come around or come towards these guys here. Mitchell Peak currently heading into the S's there. And it looks like these guys still just stationary in their pit stalls. They just gotta hope that they can come out in time to at least be
huge
with Mitchell Peak, Mitchell Peak through whites there. He's coming down the main straight. These guys have to get out of their boxes soon, and they will. All three of them out of their stalls now. It looks like Ronnie Coates is going to get in front of him, but Mitchell Peak is going to have a higher speed there. Mitchell Peak gets in front of Jedediah Babinek, but it looks like he might not be able to get in front of these two cars there towards Clayton. Mitchell Peak, he gets to the inside of both of them, and Mitchell Peak has gone back into the provisional lead of this race off of pit stops, but it's still a very close race for the entire top three. There's Jedediah Babinek and Eugenio Polici, as well as Otis Adams Jr. and Tom Rath, all the way down to Greg Macker, still trailing behind these two cars, separated by all less than a second on their separate intervals. So these guys still very close off of pit stops, but if they want to win this race there, if they're back in 7th or 8th or 9th right now, provisionally in 5th, 6th, or 7th, looks like they really have to try and work together, get these runs down the straights, take advantage of it, and make some moves to put yourself back in a winning position here, as Mitchell Peak passed all three of these guys. It is now holding on to a lead that is over half a second, but quickly closing here via the draft on the Mario Andretti straight.
He was leading already, though, if I'm not mistaken. The undercut has only extended his lead, or at least he was stuck in a battle with Ronnie Coates. So about 0.5 of a second, the undercut has gained him, which in these MX-5 cars, because they're so slow, which I think is the blunt way to put it, 0.5 of a second is a great deal. So that's something to keep an eye on. And now Andrew Gossick, the open driver, actually leads the race overall. So this will be doing wonders for his statistics. And you can get a picture. And are we awaiting?
I don't mean to interrupt you there, but it looks like Tom Rath just took the fastest lap right back from Jordy Fike, who was still very close to it. Jordy Fike's last lap would have been fastest with a 1:32. Looks like 9.85 from him, but Tom Rath quickly took it away from him with a 1:32.97. Yeah, 9.77 there, so you can see how close these two cars are as they head under the Continental Bridge. They'll be side by side into Moss. I think Jordy Fike might end up with it out of this corner here. Looks like he gets the inside. Ooh, attacks the curb in a major way there. That's going to allow Tom Rath an opportunity to put himself right back on the quarter panel of a Jordy Fike as they head down the Mario Andretti straight once again. And just look at that freight train of cars. I mean, I reckon any Formula One viewers that are watching this stream or in this call right now have heard of the simple term of DRS trains. But with these cars, no DRS. These, my friends, are draft trains here. Looks like these guys stuck in the middle. They just can't do much without help from the other car, and that's exactly how a DRS train works. The cars in the middle, they all have DRS, and they can't make moves on each other. And in this case, all the cars in the middle have draft, and they can't get around each other with the normal advantage that the draft provides. And just common with the Spec-5 World Tour and just the way these cars naturally act with their low overall speed here. And it looks like we're getting a replay of Ronnie Coates' overtake here. Looks like he's heading through the kink part of the Mario Andretti straightaway. Gets to the outside here. We've seen just textbook maneuver around the outside. The car on the inside backs out, and Ronnie Coates takes the lead once again from Mitchell Peak, and it really just has been a duel between these two cars up front, hasn't it?
That is a huge overtake for the lead. As it happens, Mitchell Peak thought he had it. He obviously gained a great deal of time through the pit stop phases. Not to beat. Ronnie Coates says, "Thank you very much. I'm leading the championship for a reason, and I'm going to do you around the outside." And that's very impressive. Given the circumstances, only about 13 minutes to go now, which means that we're heading right into the danger area of the race. We're heading into the slogovers, if you will, and that's really when the drivers are going to figuratively turn up the engines. And if it were an American film, I suppose put the gear down to to get past.
And Tom Rath here, he's 2 seconds behind that lead group of cars here, so he has to work with Jordy Fike and Greg Mack here to try and put himself back towards that lead pack. It looked like he gained a bit of time through that last corner there, so these two there really are trying to put in work. They both have the first and second fastest laps of this race, so they definitely have the speed. They just need to execute up here to try and put themselves back towards this lead pack here. But as they head into Clayton, their hopes might be starting to slip away as we come towards the final 11 minutes of this race. As you take a look back here at Sean Hayes, this open driver once was ahead of all of his other competitors by around 5 spots, maybe 6. So I wonder what's happened to him. Is he's now down. Oh, it looks like what might have happened to him is he took 4 tires there, and that might have just ended his hopes at trying to win this race there, as he's just not able to do anything back there. Just took 4 tires. Could have been a mistake on his part. Might have been something he chose to do himself, and it's just led him to be down here in 15th behind Edgar Sancinelli, and has just lost all hope.
And that is a huge shame. He was absolutely bossing this race, and I wonder whether it was a case of he accidentally took 4 tyres, or if his extreme pace can be explained by the fact that he was simply driving too fast and had to take new tyres. His I-rating, not that it means a great deal, I'd argue, I-rating, is right on... Oh dear, I didn't see that actually. I was looking at the timing screen, but his I-rating is right on with the rest of the open drivers, so that in itself wouldn't suggest that he naturally has a great deal of pace. Of course, I unfortunately don't have the context of it. Oh, here's the incident, and that is the... I can't see which number that is, but it's John A. Casey, and into the wall.
133, yeah, John Casey. Looks like we're watching him go into the S's here. Sorry to interrupt you there a little bit. And,
no, it's okay.
Just sends him sideways, tries to counter steer, just nothing he can do, slams into the inside retaining wall. And it looks like that just broke the front bumper of his car as he's brought it into the pits and has just parked it for the rest of this race here. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead is starting to heat up here as we take a look at the lead for the open class here as well. Both classes still very close to each other in terms of racing for it. The top 3 in the open class separated by less than a second here, with Jose Gonzalez, Lee Martin, and Charles Vicaro here. So we've been mainly speaking of the pro class battle, but the open class battle is just as close here, as Lee Martin, he's going to get a nice run here down the Mario Andretti straightaway. He has a bit of aero push help, I would assume, from Charles Vicaro. They were back up towards the front. Rui Coimbra going for it against Mitchell Peak through the S's. Mitchell, we've seen cars on the inside back out. It hasn't happened this time. Mitchell, he's still going for it as they come through whites. This is exactly what Ronnie Coates wants to see. Ooh, Coimbra got sideways there. Mitchell Peak sends it back to the inside there. And this is allowing Ronnie Coates to pull away ever so slightly here. Mitchell Peak, he's still not clear. Now he is. He's now clear of Rui Coimbra, and they're now single file yet again as they head towards Clayton. Rui Coimbra gets there once again on the outside, and I'm not sure just why they're racing this hard for second. I mean, Ronnie Coates is now opened up an 0.8 of a second gap here, and now before they attempt that again, they have to worry about losing the leader.
Oh, normally I'd absolutely side against the drivers here because I love having a moan about drivers' decision making from the commentary box, but really I see why they're battling for second here. Some of them might have just accepted here that maybe Ronnie has a little bit too much and they want to be in second position, I suppose, because at the end of the day, if you're leaving it too late, you know, remember we're in the last 10 minutes here, well into the last 10 minutes actually. There's only about 8 minutes left. So you want to be in that second position to go and attack Ronnie, and the number 78 car here will be thinking, actually, if the guy ahead of me isn't catching up to Ronnie, then I need to be in second position to go and catch up to Ronnie. And I think that is what the logic here is. The downside is it's kind of harming them because they're battling a little bit harder than perhaps they all would have liked. But that is at least the logic from the drivers. I think they're just thinking, you're not catching up to Ronnie, so I want a chance to go and catch up to him. And I wonder, I always think MX-5s drive remarkably, the racing is remarkably similar. So if you watch karting, or you do some kart races yourself, and I wonder if we're going to see some old kart strategy where you sort of let someone through to work together to catch up to someone. That being said, the gap is only about 0.2 of a second, so really that might not be necessary at this stage, as Mitchell Peak is actually now all of a sudden really pressuring Ronnie Coates in the last 5 minutes of this race almost. I think it's about 7 minutes exactly left. And Ronnie Coates is suddenly finding himself under a great deal of pressure, and actually they might be going side by side in a moment.
You just see the car, you can just see the front end of Mitchell Peak's car. You can almost see it smiling there. I don't know if that's just me, but looks like as they head through Moss here down the Mario Andretti straight away they come. This is where Mitchell Peak, we've seen these guys, they just end up swap drafting. I know swap drafting is normally a term associated with restrictor plate racing over on the NASCAR side of things, but just these guys, they've essentially just been swap drafting for the lead. You'll see that car in second place there, Mitchell Peak. It's happened time and time again there. Ooh, Coimbra actually goes to the inside by the time Mitchell Peak ever has a chance to think about taking the lead from Ronnie Coates there. Side by side for the lead through the S's here. Mitchell Peak is going to have the advantage here as they head through the second to last corner here. He swings out wide. Through whites they come. Ronnie Coates retains the lead. And Rui Coimbra is going to get a shot at overtaking Mitchell Peak. Jedediah Babinek decides to go with him here as they head towards turn one yet again. And looks like Rui Coimbra, he's cleared Mitchell Peak for that second place spot. So now Rui Coimbra is in the hot seat to take the lead from Ronnie Coates there as they head through Clayton.
And that's what I was alluding to earlier, getting a bit too starry-eyed on an overtake, and you end up losing ground. And that's exactly what's happened to Mitchell Peak there, unfortunately, as he got over-ambitious on the overtake, maybe tried to go for a move where a move wasn't really possible. He tried to force it rather than letting it come to him in these last 5 minutes of this race, and now he's finding himself in third. That's not going to do anything to Rui Coimbra, however, who now is thinking that maybe he can do a little bit better than Mitchell Peak, now in the hot seat to take the lead of this race. Ronnie Coates, however, is going to start to think that actually I can hold on to this. I've been holding on to the pressure for a great deal of time. I've only got 5 minutes. That's what, 2-3 laps maybe to hold on. Ronnie Coates, I would say, is a favourite to go on and win this.
Yeah, Rui Coimbra's going to have a run as we check on this open battle yet again. Lee Martin has retaken the lead of it as we take a look at Charles Vicaro here in the catbird seat back there in third for the open class, 13th overall there. Jose Gonzalez, he has a run down the Mario Andretti straightaway here. He's not going to be close enough to get to Lee Martin's rear bumper, I don't think there. Yeah, he will not be close enough by the time they get towards the S's, so these guys, they just, if they want to get around Lee Martin, who we know, I don't want to pronounce him as the fastest open driver, but still one of the fastest open drivers here, as there are several of them who know how to get it done there, but looks like Jose Gonzalez, he just has to try and hold a consistent gap through the first few corners there, so that way he can take advantage of it down the Mario Andretti straightaway, but looks like not even on the curb there, completely over the curb, trying to get just a better line through turn one there as they head through Clayton, so you know how badly Jose Gonzalez wants to win this race, but you gotta think Charles Vicaro is back there as well, and he also has a shot at this in case these two decide to tangle together a bit too hard into a corner, and it ends up with both of them wrecked. So these guys, they gotta be really careful here, but Jose Gonzalez, he's close enough. He has the speed. He just needs to get a good line here as they head through Moss there. And actually, I think something might have just happened to Jedediah Babinek there through Moss up front. Looks like he's fallen back a little bit. No damage done to the car. As we take a look at the replay here, he's headed through Moss there onto the brakes. And it looks like he just doesn't swing out wide there. Oh, bit of a checkup mid-corner. Rui Coimbra, Eugenio Polici's goes around as well. Looked like a bit of a checkup going into the second part of Moss there. Rui Coimbra got onto the brakes a little bit too hard, and it looks like the rest of the field wasn't prepared for it here. They head through the first part of the double apex as we go on board. Looks like just a checkup there. Rui Coimbra has to check up. Mitchell Peak nowhere to go, and it's just a bit of an accordion effect there, and it ends up with Jedediah Babinek and Eugenio Polici getting the worst of it there.
Dare I say it, that just looked a little bit needless to me at this stage in the race, and someone just obviously slightly misjudged their braking zone, and it caused a Constantino effect, and well, it can happen. It's the risk of racing so close, but people who aren't concerned too much about racing so close in the last 2 minutes of this race, and in fact what we're going to be is heading on to the final lap of the race as we come to the line, I'm almost certain, and well, it's this top three of course. So close still. Coates still looks to be holding on to the lead at this stage. It's ever so close though. 0.3 of a second is not a great deal at all. As we switch back to the battle in the pro class. This is Martin Gonzalez and Vicaro, the open class, I should say, not the pro class. I apologise there. But this one is just as close as the race for the lead of the overall race.
Yeah, and Lee Martin, we know how fast he is, and Ruiz, he's there for the lead.
Move for the second.
Mitchell takes advantage of Rui not trying to go for it through the S's there, but this is exactly what Ronnie Coates wants. This is only going to cost them time and actually contact there. It looks like Rui Guimmer just threw it in there a little bit too hard. Ends up dooring Mitchell Peak through the second part of the S's. That's going to cost him a shot at this race as we take the white flag for here on Mosport for the race 7 of season 9 of the Spec-5 World Tour. So Mitchell Peak has to floor it here. He has to get a good line through these first couple of corners. My opinion, it's all going to come down to the Mario Andretti straightaway and whether or not Mitchell Peak is close enough to get a good enough draft run. Looks like he lost a bit of time there through Clayton. Into Quebec they come. Mitchell, he has to step on it here. He has to get a good run through these few corners before they get to the Mario Andretti straightaway there. And it looks like, I'm not sure if he'll be close enough as they head under the Continental Bridge for the final time here. And
they won't be close enough at all, I don't think, Alex. 7/10 of a second it was as they came out of turn 1, and that is such a great deal of time in these MX-5 cars that I don't think this is going to be enough for Mitchell Peak as they head down this straight for the final time then. 4/10 of a second. This is going to be very, very close, but I think Coates has just about got it here.
I don't know. Mitchell Peak, you can see him gaining off this rear bumper camera. He's definitely, I'm going with, he's going to try and go for it here into the S's. He's just close enough there. He's not close enough to get alongside Ronnie Coates there. He has to try and send it into the final 2 corners. He's going to try. He's onto the curb. It looks like not close enough through the final corner for the pro class. Ronnie Coates is going to take the win there. Mitchell Peak in second, but they're side by side for the open class into the second to last corner. They're going to head through whites for the final time, side by side. Ooh, Lee Martin gets his elbows out, and he is going to get in front of Jose Gonzalez. Lee Martin wins yet again for the open class. Got his elbows out, putting Jose Gonzalez up the track there, and ends up on top yet again for the open class. Just what a race from these guys.
And, 45 minutes has absolutely flown by. The MX-5s are always so entertaining, and, seeing that there personified really side by side almost all the way to the line in the open class, though they'll feel it was ever so slightly gifted to them with Sean Hayes, of course, having that incident earlier on in the race. I say incident, he put tyres on, didn't he, when he didn't need to, and he'll feel bitterly disappointed in himself. Of course, if that was a mistake and not a strategy call that perhaps was not the most fruitful for him, but the number 112 crosses the line as well, 20th position, and we've only got a couple of retirements this time around, but what we have got coming up after we get confirmation of the at least provisional race results, we have got coming up for you in fact I'll read through these quickly if you don't mind, Alex, as Ronnie Coates does go and lead the day overall in the class. Championship leader extends his lead. Mitchell Peak is in second position for Team Esport Racer. Then it's Adams Jr. in third position. Tom Rasht is in fourth position with Jordy Fike in fifth. Rui Coimbra finishes sixth with Greg Mack in seventh. Pulici in eighth position from Bamenek in ninth. Brian Savaleski is in 10th position with Lee Martin taking home 11th position, and of course a win in the the open category, I should say. Jose Gonzalez finishes second in the open category, 12th overall. Then it's Charlie Vicaro from Sean Hayes from Sanchinelli, and then Andrew Gossick, Stephen Helliwell, and Paolo Coimbra. Then it is, as I find my place again, Greg Brockway, Ray Lombardi, Tom Atherton, John A. Casey, and Simon Foweather, the last three, unfortunately retiring out of this race, but certainly a very interesting one. And with those confirmation of the provisional results, we will have some interviews for you, I imagine, coming up very soon.
Yeah, and we will here. And looks like just once again, just a fantastic race from all of these guys. What a race, man. I mean, the open class, I know that usually it's one car gets separated from the entire field, but they were side by side throughout the entire final 3 corners, and Lee Martin, we saw him get his elbows out, just forced Jose Gonzalez just up the track further than he wanted, and Lee Martin took the win for himself, and we saw coming to the white flag that contact between Rui Coimbra and Mitchell Peak there threw away Rui Coimbra's chance of winning. Mitchell Peak, he got close, but just wasn't close enough there as they came through the S's for the last time and just wasn't able to get himself the win. But we're going to get some interviews started, and the first person we're going to get an interview for is the person that did in fact get his elbows out and ended up on top for the open class. And if it lets me drag him in here, that man is in fact Lee Martin here. And Lee, excuse me, it looks like it's not letting me drag him in. There he is, Lee Martin here. Just got your elbows out in the final corner, racing alongside Jose Gonzalez, and you end up on top yet again here from Mosport.
Best race we've had. Gotta give props to Jose. That was absolutely unbelievable. I need to go back, make sure I left him enough room, but he is a clean racer, a fast racer. Most enjoyable race so far.
Yeah, it definitely looked like it with how you guys were side by side through the final 3 corners there. Did it look like there was a bit of contact there? Because from what I was watching up in the booth, it looked like there may have been just, maybe contact, but just a bit of elbows getting out, we'll say there, from you just trying to win the race for yourself. And do you think there might have been a little bit of contact between yourself or not enough room given?
I'm going to definitely go back and look at it. I thought I did, but then I saw him closer than I expected and probably should have left him a little bit more room. He's a great sport, though. Played along, and we chatted briefly after the race, and we'll go back. We'll probably learn something, but great racing, and I appreciate him.
Yeah, definitely. And just anybody want to give a little bit of a shout out to here tonight for your performance here? Just fantastic race from you again there with that race towards the end there. Anybody you want to give a thanks to?
Oh, you know what? Tonight's thanks go to Jose. Absolute brilliant race all the way through. He out-strategized me. I got a little impatient, passed him with 3 to go, put him in the catbird seat. He was brilliant. And, as always, my beautiful wife sitting behind me cheerleading and maybe made me push a little harder than I should have. So I will definitely take my lumps if I'm due.
Yeah, definitely. But still, you end up on top yet again for yourself. And unless anybody else has any other questions there, I do believe that is all we have for you, my friend. Congrats to you once again. A fantastic race from yourself and everyone involved. Have a good night. And that was Lee Martin, your first place finisher for the open class. But let's take a minute to talk to your first place finisher for a separate class there, the other class, the pro class. Ronnie Coates there, you did it for yourself. Tom Dillon, I'll let you have at him.
Oh, yeah, and Ronnie, it wasn't easy for you. The pit stops, it looked like that maybe Mitchell had just pulled the wool over your eyes for a second, but you got it back, and eventually you got the win of the race. How was it holding off that chasing back in the end?
Was super tense. Obviously, going through that double right-hander, I kept pushing it in there just a little too hard, and it starts getting in your head. You brake harder, it slides more. I was like really struggling on the last few laps to get through there.
And as I understand, you're leading the championship. And do you think you can defend your crown with 2 races to go?
Oh, I don't think I'm the one leading. Well, I might be now. I wasn't before. I don't know. It's going to be tough. All these guys are so fast, and the times are just so close together. That really, we're all just kind of playing chess out there, waiting for the end of the race. And luckily, I think did pretty good on the pit, like you said. And when it cycled around, still right there where I was with Mitchell. We actually had a little gap.
Oh yes, sorry, you were second place in the championship. I read on my little note sheet that you were leading it, but I must have read that wrong slightly. But second place in the championship, but still really close to defending your crown. That's for certain. And, well, I guess you're just going to be focused on consistent finishing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those bonus points make a big difference too, for sure. So just trying to be clean and try to stay up front.
Well, thank you very much, and well, best of luck next week, and of course the week after as well. And we hope to speak to you very soon indeed.
All right, thanks. Shout out to the Not a Team guys. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely, and have a good night, Ronnie Coates. There as he heads back to the waiting rooms, and we're going to talk to the man who finished second to Lee Martin as they went side by side through the final couple of corners. Jose Gonzalez racing all the way home against Lee Martin. What was it like out there today?
Man, it was intense. I didn't think we were going to be that close, but it was going to be a fight to the death at the end, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely, and I could really tell it was a fight to the death by the way you guys were racing each other. Looked like it was very close there. Coming to the final corner, you think there might have been a little bit of contact there between you two?
I didn't see anything on my screen, and I just checked, so I got a 0x, but, you know, I thought it was going to be a little more contact, you know, because...
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was not going to let him go that easy.
Yeah, and definitely did not let him go easy at all. He had to work for that one, so just fantastic job for yourself there. And just, I gotta ask, Lee said earlier that he thought that you outsmarted him through the pit stops, and just looks like he was able to catch back up to you there through on-track action there. And just, what did you do for the pit strategy? I mean, I know it's normally just either left or right side tires and full tank of fuel, but how was it? Because I know pit entry here, at least for myself, I don't know if it's just me being a bit dumb, but pit entry for me here is always a little bit difficult. So, I mean, just what is the key here to just getting those fast pit stops to try and give yourself an advantage?
Well, you can tell Adam, I did practice a lot this time. I was practicing a lot, and pit was one of the things I was practicing because I always mess up my pit entries, or I come in too slow, or I take too much fuel. And I did work on my pit to where I got it just perfect, and I did take a little more fuel than I expected. But yeah, I mean, I was trying to beat him with the pit strategy, and I almost got him.
Yeah, and you definitely did almost get him, but still you end up with P2 at the end of the... Oh, excuse me, if you end up with P2 at the end of the day for yourself, anybody you want to give a thanks, bit of a special shout out to here?
Yeah, definitely Another Team guys. You guys put in a great broadcast. Definitely Lee Martin. I mean, we were going head to head all the time, and great racing with him. And everybody that's watching me, my cousin Ev got mad at me last time I didn't shut him out, so I had to shut him out today.
Well, hopefully he's happy with that, but congrats on the second place, man, and have a good night.
Thank you, too.
That was Jose Gonzalez, your second place finisher for the Open class, and we're going to talk to your second place finisher for the Pro class, Mitchell Peak.
And hello, Mitchell. Undercut seemed to be on this evening, and unfortunately, just in the end, you had a bit of an incident, and in the end, just not quite enough for Ronnie there. Talk us through your race, if you can.
Well, starting the race from P2, it was a good qualifying. I knew at the start, just make sure the first lap is going to be clean. I wasn't really trying to be too aggressive. I wasn't trying to be too conservative. I was just trying to focus on keeping the car away from other cars. I made a pass on Ronnie to take the lead on that first lap, which may have been a little bit of aggressive, but I think that set the tone for what we were expecting at the front with playing a little bit of leapfrog. I've raced here before, and the car in P2 pushing P1, it doesn't really work out well. The pack behind you ends up catching you anyway, so I thought we'd try something different, and the car in P2 just leapfrog into P1, and we seem to be on board with that for the race. And then we get down to 3 to go, and we're all right there. I think there was like eight or nine of us in a train, and 3 to go into Moss, everyone kind of checked up and we got accordioned into each other. So I got in the back of Rui and Jed got in the back of me. And unfortunately for Jed, he ended up, I think, going off the track too. And I took a little bit of damage from that. So it was a little bit difficult turning right after that point. And then the second last lap with Rui, I feel really bad. I thought I gave him enough room there in turn 9. I thought I left a little bit of room on the inside, but I might have squeezed him a little bit. I got to look it over again because that one was really close. But, with a lap to go, the elbows are out. And, P2 would have been the perfect spot if there was no contact with Rui there that set me back a few tenths. I think if there was no contact there, I would have had a nice run on the last lap. But I tried pushing on that last lap and taking the toe, and I thought about doing a big lunge on the inside there of turn 8 on the last lap, but I was like, Ronnie's just too far ahead, and that's going to be a big old dive bomb. And Ronnie just showed amazing pace all night. He took the pole in qualifying, so I knew he had the track down, and it was really quick. And hats off to him. He had a great race, great strategy, and I'm happy to finish P2. I would have liked to finish P1, but, I think that was a really great race tonight.
And we are pressed for time, so unfortunately I'm going to have to let you go, Mitchell. But thank you very much for the interview, and hopefully you can go on better in Brands Hatch.
All right, sounds good.
That was Mitchell Peak, second place finisher. Sorry there, Alex. There was an awkward silence for about 2 seconds there, where we were both letting each other speak.
Trying to decide.
You go ahead.
Alright, well, we're going to talk to, it looks like your third place finisher for the pro class. Otis Adams, you end up on the podium once again for yourself after a bit of late race contact between Mitchell Peak and Rui Coimbra there. And how was it out there today?
It was tough as usual, just trying to keep up and keep up with everybody, keep it clean. At the end there, I guess everybody got kind of tight into that double right-hander, and I guess Eugenio got a little sideways, and I ran into the back of him, so I feel bad about that. But other than that, yeah, it was just tough, just trying to hang in there.
Yeah, and it looks like you were able to hang in there quite well to end up P3 at the end of the day. And just, how was it out there? I mean, it looked like that second pack started to fall away a little bit, and I know there was that checkup in the Moss. Just how did you end up dealing with that there to try and keep that car clean?
Yeah, I just, the first bit of the race, everybody's being real safe, and then everybody started getting a little pushy. So I said, I'll just save fuel like crazy and see it and try to save some time in the pits, and that worked out good. I think I got away from a bunch of guys, and then just try to hang on there at the end.
Yeah, and looks like you're able to hang out around there at the end pretty well to end up P3 at the end of the day. Anybody want to give a special thanks to here live on Slow Motion Broadcasts?
Yep, got to thank all the other Not a Team guys, the guys at Team Watson Racing. I don't have a lot of time to practice anymore, so I basically have to rely on those guys to help me figure the tracks out nowadays. Got to thank the family as always. All the guys over at Spec-5 for putting on a great series, and you guys at Slow Motion for doing what I'm sure is another great broadcast.
Yeah, and even with that limited practice, you were still able to do very well. I think you might be able to get on the top step of the podium if you just put a little bit of more practice there. I know how fast you are, so I'll be rooting for you going into the last couple of races, so have a good night.
Thanks, guys. You too.
That was Otis Adams Jr., your third place finisher for the pro class. And to round out the interviews for tonight, we're going to get to talk to Charles Vicaro here, who finished third in the open class.
Charlie, and you perhaps may feel that the podium was ever so slightly gifted, but with the issues for people up front, but I imagine very hard fought regardless. Do you feel that maybe you had the pace to go on and do slightly better in the race?
No, I don't think so. I think I was lucky to just be behind Jose and Lee and try to hang on to him towards the end.
And And being so close to the guys, how do you find sort of racing for that long in such a close pack? Was it a bit nervy at all, knowing that there was incidents up front?
Well, let's just say I had my T-shirt is soaking wet after that race. I noticed there was that when I went the hill and back, I was catching them too early, and it kind of didn't allow me to use the draft coming up the hill. And that happened twice towards the end, so that would have been my chance to make a move on one or the other.
And thank you very much for joining us, Charlie. We're a little bit pressed on time, so we'll let you go. But thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks again, guys.
And just once again, a great race from the Spec-5 World Tour here again at Mosport this time. And just final thoughts from me. Once again, another fantastic race from these guys. Just never is disappointing with this group of drivers. So just always fantastic racing out on track, and I always really enjoy it. So Tom, just any finishing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Well, I always love MX5s, and it's very interesting to watch, and love doing it. So can't wait for next week now.
Yeah, definitely. And next week we do head to Brands Hatch, I believe, the Grand Prix circuit, if I am not mistaken. So we'll see you guys then. But for now, my name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined up in the booth by Tom at Dillon with Adam at Thompson running cameras in the background. Thank you all for showing up tonight, and we will see you, looks like next Monday here for XTC.
Yeah, but before we do that, before we sign off tonight, I wanted to give Adam Thompson here, by the way, guys. I wanted to give a big shout out to Eugenio Polici there out of the Spec-5 World Tour. Gave Slow Motion Broadcasting a donation that has gone towards getting Alex, actually one of our commentators, a desktop microphone that we're going to get it set up after this race. So thank you so much, Eugenio, for doing that, and thank you to all the Spec-5 guys who have kept us on here and continued to give us good racing. And we hope to see more of it. But that's it, Alex. You can go ahead and go through the whole outro again if you want.
Well, you didn't have to mention that up here, but thank you very much to everybody that's a part of the Spec-5 World Tour. I really do appreciate it. Honestly meant the world to me. I almost actually fell out in tears. I just didn't know what to say. So, once again, my name is Alex Andersen. I've been joined in the commentary booth by Tom Dillon and Adam Thompson running cameras here from Mosport Park. Everyone, have a good night.